Thank you all for coming out. This is a very special project. We've got a video we're going to show you today about it, as well as hear from a few people that's going to talk about the project as well. First off, we've asked Commissioner Burdick if he wouldn't extend a little hand of welcome to everyone, as he's the commissioner over the fairgrounds and the county fair and all of that stuff, and he's got a real long message prepared. Then we'd like to hear from Mike Hawley, who is with Jones and DeMille Engineering, and they were the engineering firm that put this together. And maybe Mike, if you would talk a little bit about the contractor as well in your remarks. And also we have our director of the chamber here today, Irene Hansen, and Irene has consented to take a few moments. And then we'll ask Senator Van Tassel and Representative King, who is here with us, is also, if they would like to take just a couple of minutes to talk, and then we'll watch our video. So we'll go to that point to Representative King. Commissioner?
We would like to welcome you here, and we're glad that you're all here. This is quite a celebration. We just turned 100 years old, and most of you, your relatives, were here just like mine were. This bridge is a big part of our history. There was another one just like it as you went out of Duchesne on the old Highway 40, and they dismantled that one and turned it into scrap. And this one, it needed to be taken off of the river so that the lead paint could be taken out of it, and it was just as cheap to bring it up here and do it and then put it back across the river and put it back into good use. It will be there now for, we hope, the next 100 years and the next 100 years for everybody to use. But it is a very unusual bridge, because they just don't make them like that anymore. But we're really proud to have it here as part of the fairgrounds to cross the river on and for everybody to use. And so we'd like to thank everybody that took part in that, and we'd like to thank all of you for being here to help us with this today. And I know Kent said this was going to be long, but I'm pretty short-winded, especially today. But anyway, we're glad that you're all here, and we're like to thank everybody that has helped put this program together. It has been a big thing to do, and a lot of work has gone into it. Many hours of people donating their time and spending so many hours up here getting the history of Duchesne County. What a wonderful place. You know, it just started out, and it's grown and grown, and it's a place that we love and that we enjoy. And it's not just Duchesne City or Roosevelt City, it's Duchesne County. We are one community, and that's how we like to keep it. We were up in the Tabby and Hannah area today visiting with some people up there and over on Red Creek, and I'll guarantee you the mud is thick up there today. But it's really good to be back here, and we're glad to see this going. We're glad we've got this nice roof over our head for this event right now, and we're just glad that all of you are here. Anyway, that's about all I probably better say for a minute. I'm in enough trouble.
Like Kent said, I'm Mike Hawley with Jones and DeMille Engineering. We were the engineering firm that was selected by Duchesne County to help with the design and the relocation of this bridge. Before I get started, I didn't have any funny stories about a bridge, so I turned to my old friend Google and Googled something funny about a bridge to try to get you livened up today. So I've got two sayings about bridges. One is, life is hard, so cry me a river, build a bridge, and get over it. The other one is, if that one didn't work, I had a backup. The other one is, me and you as friends, you smile, I smile, you hurt, I hurt, you cry, I cry, you jump off a bridge, I'm going to miss your emails. Although I'm not sure this is going to do the job. We don't have quite enough clearance over the river here to I probably won't miss any emails, but anyway, like I said, I'm Mike Hawley. I'm a principal engineer with Jones and DeMille, and I just wanted to thank a few people before we got started. This project really happened because the Duchesne County Commission and Kent Petrus were looking at options to have a bridge and access here at the fairgrounds, and they asked us to put together a cost comparison to build a bridge here and rehab the Bridgeland Bridge at its previous location, which was falling into disrepair. It was deteriorating, as you could see, the oxidation in the members. The deck was deteriorating. There was rebar hanging in the river. As mentioned before, there was lead paint that was an issue. And so the cost comparison to rehab the bridge on site where it was and build a new bridge here, it was about $130,000 to $150,000 more to do that rather than just relocate the bridge and put this historic bridge back in use to where it could be utilized by the entire county. So that's what was chosen and went forward with. The bridge is historic, as was mentioned. Kent asked me to talk a little bit, and I'm sorry Dry Creek's not here because the owner of Dry Creek has a lot more knowledge of this than I do. But the construction techniques that used to take, they used to employ to build bridges like this, we just don't do anymore. If you go out on the bridge, there's thousands of these little rivets all over in that bridge. Hot rivets that were all done on site. They'd heat those things up, according to Bryce Wadsworth with Dry Creek. Heat those things up and toss them up to some guy that's standing up on the members, and he'd stick it in and then pound it in with a hammer. I'm sure it would have been something to see nowadays. We just don't do that anymore. And so it's very unique in its structure. In addition, you don't see highway bridges that have this truss shape anymore, where you have these members that go above the bridge. They used to be quite common. It's a very efficient bridge. If you think of a truss member in your house, you know, the thicker that truss member, the stiffer it is, right? And so you can get away with pretty small members because you have these trusses that are, you know, 25, 26 feet apart that carry the load both above the structure and below. We don't use those anymore on highway construction. That's why you don't see them. There's a few reasons for that. One is redundancy in design. If something happens to one of these members here, a truck were to hit it or something, then the whole bridge is in danger, right? It loses its structure. It can't carry the load anymore through the top. And where these are above the road, you know, they're open to traffic, so if you had an accident, it could be an issue. And so anyway, that's one reason why we just don't use them anymore. The other reason, you know, on these highway bridges we build now, even if we lost a girder off one of these current new bridges, it would still stay there. Whereas here, if you lose a member, it's got issues. But putting it in use here at the fairgrounds is a unique situation because we've got very low volume, very low speed traffic, and so this was a win-win situation for this bridge. And so I'll just say just a few words about the project and then I'll shut up. The way the project was constructed is the bridge was cut in half and moved in two sections, and the video will talk a little bit more about that. It was unique in that what I just mentioned, the truss bridge is a bridge because it carries load both on top and on the bottom, and if you cut it in half, it no longer has structural capacity. So we basically had to build and design two separate bridges, one for the top half and one for the bottom that could withstand the loads during transport. So there were members that were welded for both the top and the bottom before it was ever cut in half, and then it was cut in half and it acted as two separate structures, brought over here, welded back together, and those members were taken off. So it was like I said, a unique project, a unique process that we just don't do anymore. And in addition to the people I thanked previously, I just wanted to mention that Cade Roberts and Kendrick Thomas with Jones and DeMille, they're the structural engineers that did the design work on this. They're not able to be here today. In addition, Cameron Erickson and Bryce Wadsworth with Dry Creek Structures were the contractors that were brought on board and helped move the bridge. And with that, I just want to say that we were very happy to be a part of it, and we're happy it's here back in service. So, thank you.
Thank you, and it's good to be here with you today. I spent a little time thinking about this bridge the last little while, and I think, I know I traveled it many times prior to the one that I really remember it best on, but in the winter of 1958, I got to skip school for a day or two and went with my dad, and we trailed cattle from Tabiona to Bridgeland. And the trail at that time, we'd come down as far as the Frank Clark place and let the cattle rest overnight, and then the next day we'd come across Blue Bench, down off the hill, and then across travel Highway 40 for about 4 or 5, 7 miles, I guess, and we drove the cattle across this bridge. And I remember looking up as we drove those cattle across and seeing not all those loads missed the structure on the top. There was a few bent beams and things, but I remember the Brady store that was right there on the left, and Highway 40 wasn't near as busy as it is today. And so I think in the last 50, 60 years, we have all seen Duchesne County grow and prosper, and we want to see another 100 years of that. And it's critical that we do this, and the ability to keep some of these historical structures in legitimate use is a great benefit to our history, to our children and our grandchildren. I think Duchesne County, great job. Thank you for preserving that bridge. I know as you drive around, there's just not many of them left. Don't know of any. And I'm sure those hot rivets that they threw around and caught in a cup and pounded them in, the strength of those rivets are a lot of rivets with a little bit of give that will carry a lot of weight. And I think that's what makes Duchesne County. We have a lot of good people that work to make it successful, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So thank you all for coming. I think this is something that we'll enjoy for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation to come and join you today. Any excuse is a good excuse to come over to Duchesne County, but 100 years is a great excuse. And there are no bad reasons to have a party, and it sounds like from looking at the schedule, this is going to be a great party all week. It's important that we remember these things. We have anniversaries and centennials and things. In fact, I celebrated my anniversary of marriage with my wife this last 2 weeks ago. And those things are important to remember because if you don't, you'll be in trouble, for one thing. But I've been happily married for 35 years, and my wife tells me that she's been happily married for about 11 of those. But it is a good excuse to get together and talk about things. I love trains and I love bridges. And to see that this one has been preserved really tickles me. Too many of those go into scrap piles and get turned into other things. But it's a great day for Duchesne County and for Duchesne. And I appreciate, again, the invitation to come over. And I don't know all of you, but if you would introduce yourself to me when we get finished, I'd appreciate that very much. Again, thank you and congratulations.
You know, it's such an honor to be here today. And, you know, there's certain things that define us as people, certain things that define our county. And it's these kind of things that define us as leaders. And so I really do want to thank our county commissioners. And, you know, when Commissioner Kent Petra started talking about the Centennial, I've come to find out he loves our county as much as I do. Because he started talking about the Centennial 5 years ago and what are some things we can do. And little did we know that both this building as well as Centennial projects in every community, as well as moving this bridge would come to fruition. And so, you know, what an amazing time for our county to look back. You know, we did a Centennial wagon that we've taken to each of the communities for their celebrations, and we've had fun, amazing time, but it was hard to find old pictures. You know, I see the wonderful technology here today. I'm not glad that I will be in this video 100 years from now, but I am very glad that that bridge will be. We'll know about what happened today. This is a defining moment for our county. And so thanks to Duchesne County, to its residents, and it's going to be good times all week here in Duchesne City. So please plan on staying and enjoying the entire week. And I think we're going to be cutting a ribbon here in just a minute.
I failed to mention earlier, but over here on the wall, part of our theme of the Centennial has been, as Irene mentioned, is we've been trying to find old pictures throughout the county and then go back and take a now picture. And so as you visit the Centennial wagon, you'll see a lot of old pictures of Mighton Main Street or Duchesne Main Street, Roosevelt Main Street, and then pictures that was taken back in the early 1900s, and then pictures today, and that's what we've been doing. So over here on the wall is a picture of the Bridgeland Bridge, the earliest picture we could find of it, and I'm guessing from the vehicle that that's probably a 30s vintage picture. I don't know my 30s vehicles very well. Maybe Steve could help me on that one, but it kind of predates me a wee bit. But I do know the other vehicle on the bridge. So it's kind of a then and now picture. And as soon as the other morning, as soon as we had gravel up on the abutment on the one side, somebody ran over there and put their pickup on the bridge and took a picture. So that's our then and now. And one other thing I'd point out, when you look at those pictures, you'll see on the end of the bridge, the cross members are it's kind of an A-frame type, I don't know, Mike could define that better, but a bracing system that is there, and those were totally cut out. And the commission and we talked about that, and we decided that we wanted to restore the bridge to its original look. Now, if you go on the bridge, you'll see a lot of dings on the rails there. There's one great big one that I think maybe the corner of a dozer might have hit at some point being hauled across it or something, because whatever it was, it hit it hard, and it is still there. The rail on the bridge is, we did straighten it in a couple of places where it was bent. The handrail you can see, but otherwise the bridge is pretty much going to show all of its signs of wear, and I think it's pretty unique. But anyway, we have some other guests with us today. First off, we have a rodeo royalty here that we're going to ask to come up and introduce themselves and speak to us just for a minute. And then also, in my opinion, the special guest of the day is a young man who grew up down there to the side of this bridge. He can probably tell us stories of climbing all over the top of it, scratching his girlfriend's name in it, or throwing rocks off of it, or whatever. But Ralph Stansfield, we'll then ask Ralph, as a former county sheriff here in the county and grew up to the side of the bridge, to take a few minutes and tell us about his experience. So, girls, if you would.
Hi guys, I am Kaylin Iverson from Taviona, Utah, and I am the Duchesne County Rodeo Queen. And along with me, I have the Duchesne County Rodeo Princess. And we have speeches over the 100 years of Duchesne County, and we would love to give them to you guys. Maybe. Hi, it's so good to see you. Hey, I have someone I want you to meet. I have known her my whole life, and you are going to love her. She was born on January 4th, 1915, and is celebrating her 100th birthday. She lives in the heart of the Uinta Basin, where the oil field and farmlands meet the beautiful yet rugged high Uinta Mountains. She is rich in minerals, and even the rare honeycomb calcite can be found in her veins. She spans over 3,000 square miles and has amazing, unique features. From Sleeping Lady Mountain, Stoneface, vast juniper and pinyon pine forests, Starvation Road Bridge, tall peaks, high lakes, blue ribbon rivers, to picturesque petroglyph panoramas. Her family is very important to her. Her children are kind, honest, and hard-working. She is Western and loves to rodeo. Every year, the world's finest cowboys and cowgirls come to visit her, and she welcomes them with open arms. She loves her livestock as well as wildlife, and tends both with care, feeding them and watching them grow and play. She's Kings Peak climbing, barrel racing, calf roping, horseback riding, trout fishing, pheasant hunting, National Geographic promoting, backpacking, gold digging, cattle branding, horn hunting, and ATV mama. Amazing people have come from her neck of the woods. Shanae Shiner Vest, Nancy Hunter, Ren Richard, Charlie Jenkins, Lorraine Day, Caleb Rhodes, Chief Tabby, the Sundance Kid, and so many more have called her their home girl. Friends old and new are always welcome to visit her, and thousands of people come to see her beautiful backyard every year. Well, I've got to go. I'll let you get to know her. Oh, I forgot to give you her name. It's Duchesne County. To know her is to love her. I have a dear friend who is getting kind of old. Actually, she just celebrated her 100th birthday. We all know her as Duchesne County. Throughout her history, legendary characters and outlaws have paid her a visit, such as the U.S. Cavalry, fur trappers, mountain men, Indian chiefs, and gold prospectors. There have been many stories told about the secrets Duchesne County keeps hidden within her borders. The Lost Roads mine and the gold it hoards has eluded prospectors for years. Did Caleb Rhodes leave behind a map showing the direction to the mine? Or does a stone face in the North Fork of the Duchesne River, who stands guard of the heart of his lost love, signal the route to this hidden Spanish treasure? Could there possibly be a monster in Moon Lake? Is Sleeping Lady an actual sleeping lady? Do strawberries grow along the banks of the Strawberry River? Is there a king on King Peak? Is Dead Ox Flat really named after a dead ox? Will we starve at Starvation Reservoir? Did somebody lose their marbles on Marble Knoll? And is the Duchesne Cemetery the final resting place of the Sundance Kid? If Duchesne County could talk, here's what I think she would say. I am home to the most beautiful wilderness in the state of Utah. I have hundreds of lakes, miles and rivers of streams, and 3 national forests. I am well known for my recreation, agriculture, and natural resources. If you come visit, you will see moose, elk, mule deer, antelope, mountain lions, bears, bobcats, and maybe even Bigfoot. So come on over, my door is always open. And who knows, maybe I'll even tell you one of my secrets. And don't you worry about my age, 100 years? Oh, that's nothing. I could go at least 100 more. I would like to thank you guys all for everything that you guys do for us in the community. We love you guys, and we are very, very honored, me and Kelly both, to be able to celebrate 100 years with you guys. Thank you.
I'm not sure just what I'm supposed to say, but I remember the bridge as she stands in Her Majesty today. 1952 is when we lived about a mile from the bridge at first. And in 1952, we moved to the Liddell place, just about a quarter of a mile west of the bridge. From that time on, as a kid, I would climb the bridge, play on the top, drop a few water balloons off, lay flat on the girder so they couldn't see you, and have a enjoyable time. Yes, I probably scratched my name in it or painted it on it a couple of times. My dad gave me the idea. He said they used to, back in the 30s, that they used to climb there with a 10-gallon wash tub, hoist water up with a 5-gallon bucket on a rope, wait for their friends to come by and dump the whole tub on them. So that's, I've been underneath her, I've swam. Nice hole on the west side, a little rocky on the bottom, but you could swing out there with a rope. Had a great time dropping in. Built many a fence on that south girder or across the bottom of it. Hung wire and poles and to keep the cows from going through. Crossed it probably 8-10 times a day. All through my high school years, I rode the school bus, although we got on just after the bus passed over the bridge, but we got its sister, which is in Duchesne, which was tore down years ago. But we always considered, I always thought as a kid, that's why they named Bridgeland, because of that bridge. I don't know why they named Bridgeland, but I always thought it was because of the big bridge. And it meant a lot to me. I'm glad to see her standing as I remember her. Had lots of fun on it. Did many things, and she looks as great today as she did when I first remembered back in the 50s. I try not to get too sentimental about stuff because my mother would probably be the happiest. For some reason, she thought they ought to keep the old bridge. And down in my heart, I guess I'm glad she did. Because she looks just like she did when I was a kid. Nothing more beautiful than an old bridge. Probably a lot older than I am. I wished I was as in good a shape as she is right today. But lots of memories on that old bridge. And there'll always be memories for me and my family because it was so much part of our life. And I don't know what else to say. Glad she's there. I'm sure she'll give you good service. You want to swing under that bridge on a rope, you can do that and drop in the river, and it'll be just like Bridgeland. It won't be a whole lot different. It's a lot of fun. A little rocky on the bottom down at Bridgeland. I don't know how it is here, but it was a little rocky, but we made it and we enjoyed it. So it's great to be here. I'm thankful to be able to spend some time. I remember one time we had to spend about 3 hours. We had to flatten the tires, almost totally flat on a big semi that was hauling a big dozer. It was about 2 inches too high. So we went around and flattened every tire on that truck. And he scooted through on about a ½ inch clearance, just barely make it. Just had enough air in them tires to get across. Took us about 3 hours to do that. I remember crossing her with the windrower, getting to stop all the cars. I thought I was the greatest thing in the world. Pull out there with the windrower and cross that, and the cars on both sides would have to stop and let me go through. I thought I was king of the world. I was only about 14, 15 years old, but it was great to be able to do that. Herded the cows across, herded the sheep across. Probably a pig or two even got away on us over there, so what can I say? But it's great to see her standing just like she did. And it's a good, thanks to Kent and the committee, it's great to see her there. And she'll serve you well in the purpose that she's built. Thank you.
Just in response to Ralph's comment, we're going to ask him to cut the tape here in just a minute. But just in response to him mentioning her mother, or his mother, she was an integral part in saving that bridge. Because when we built the new bridge, and this was 2003, I was first became commissioner, and that was this project was underway right then. And it was, should we, take the old bridge down and put the new bridge in that alignment, which would have made it a much better road then, because right now you got a little curve right there where you have to go around the old location. But it would have made a much better alignment for the road. But I remember Lois and Lily Mae Claiborne coming in and meeting with the commission, and they were pretty adamant that that bridge wasn't going to be torn down. And if any of you know Lois, you know adamant. And a great lady, but she did love that bridge. And I have to say, I don't think there's any question that if they hadn't have done that or been that way, quite possibly it would have went the same way that the old sister bridge over here on the river just out of Duchesne would have went. I've talked to a couple of county employees that told me they spent 2 weeks there with a cutting torch back when that bridge was taken off the river, cutting it all up in small enough pieces so they could it could be hauled away, and it got scattered all over the county. And so That's, you know, so it sit there in disrepair for all of that time, literally crumbling apart, becoming a millstone really to the county because it just could not go on forever. That something had to happen with that bridge. And then this project come along, and I don't know if it's divine intervention or whatever, but it's a great project, and I'm proud to have been a part of it. And there was a lot of people that had a lot to do with moving it, but I'm proud for what little role I played. We now have a video we'd like to show about the bridge. This is kind of a rough draft. When we get through with this, we're going to add this ceremony and the ribbon cutting to the end of the bridge, or to the video, to make it complete so that we've got the whole thing, and then it will be available. But let's show the video now, and when it's complete, we'd like to invite everybody to go out and join us on the bridge. And then we're going to ask you to cross it, get out on it. We're going to then string a ribbon out in front of us and take a few photos. And we'd certainly love to have everybody in it. And then we're going to ask Ralph to cut the ribbon and officially open the bridge up to the public, even though we've been using it for about a week now. But it's going to be official. And as you go out the door, don't forget to get you a cookie and a drink of water. And also pay attention to the little I don't know, cul-de-sac or whatever that we've built at the end of the walking path. As you know, the city has a walking path that goes along the river, and that little cul-de-sac is right there to the side of the bridge, and there's a little small marquee there that tells about the history of the bridge. We're going to add a couple of things to it. We overlooked to add a map to the bottom of that that will tell the visiting public where this bridge was originally, and we'll point them to Bridgeland. And we're also committed to do something just like this on the old location. So if they want to look at this marquee, see where it's at, they can drive down the old river road. They'll be able to see the marquee there. They'll be able to stand there and look at the marquee, and then also look at the old abutments. The abutments were left in place as they are just as solid as the day they were poured. And so you'll be able to stand right there and see the old abutments of the bridge and where it was originally. So with that, we've got VTV here with us today, and grateful for their help and support, and they're going to show us the video. I think everyone's excited about the project because it puts an old historic structure back in service.
It's just been fun to be involved with it.
The project began because when we bought a piece of property across the river from the county fairgrounds in Duchesne, we needed a bridge to access the two parcels of property.
They asked us to put together a cost comparison, build a new bridge here at the county fairgrounds versus relocating the Bridgeland Bridge and utilizing it here at the county fairgrounds. Kent Petrus, who was then a county commissioner, came and talked to me about what we could do about moving the Bridgeland Bridge. They were looking at possibly relocating it and put it back in use. At the time it had fallen in disrepair. The deck was deteriorated and crumbling away. There was rebar hanging into the river.
This bridge was built back in about 1929. It's been here for a long time since then. It was taken out of service in about 2004 when the new bridge was built to the side of it because the deck wasn't sufficient to handle traffic anymore. So it's been here ever since, and it's just a historic icon in the county. So we just wanted to restore the bridge, put it back into service, and when all was said and done, that was the cheapest option.
We sat down with numerous contractors, subcontractors, bounced ideas back and forth of different processes.
We had numerous utility crossings that we just couldn't get by. We couldn't undo. The utility company didn't want to undo either. And so we devised a plan to split the bridge into two sections.
It was determined early in that process that bridge was going to need to be cut in half in order to move it. And so there was some significant tube steel bracing that was welded on the bridge so that when you cut it in half, it maintains its structure. You know, we had to basically make sure the bridge was adequate the way it was, but then also have two different bridges for a time as it was cut apart and had to be transported. All that bracing and things we did there to stabilize the bridge had to be designed.
The bridge was originally built with rivet and a number of sections put together with lacing. We have old steel, we have rivets, we have member sizes that we don't even have in our books anymore. And so we had to go back to the history books to look up previous manufacturers of steel to see what the properties of this existing steel is. The night before we cut the members on the bridge and separated it into the two sections, I probably only got a few hours of sleep. I was very restless and worried for the next day's activities.
Once the tube steel was welded on and adequately braced, then they came back in and cut it in half and lifted the top half off, put it on a truck transport. Basically they had a truck driving forward and a truck facing backwards, driving in reverse, and we're able to load that on there and drive it right down Highway 40.
We had the highway patrol planned for, and they did a great job at getting people up and past us or stopped. The transportation actually went a lot smoother than I had expected.
I know at the time we moved the top half, the school kids had come out to look at it. There was people lining the streets and watching it. And it was kind of a big event for the area to have that bridge roll down Main Street. So the next day, the contractor went back on site. Once again, that bottom half had been adequately braced prior to that. They came back and rigged up their cranes and lifted it off and moved it the second day. And so within a 2-day period, we had driven both halves down 40 and they were both sitting here in the fairgrounds. So I think we cleared the stoplight here on Center Street by just inches. It was a good thing we had that rear steering truck because we needed to kind of serpentine through there.
When the contractor got the two halves back to the fairgrounds, they welded the two halves back together, took off all the temporary bracing and painted it, and then swung it across the river.
So in order to lift this bridge across the river, they weren't able to just pick it up with a single crane and lift it across. It was too much of a reach for one crane. So what they had to do is they brought in 2 cranes, picked it up, got it about halfway across the river on this side to the other crane that was sitting on the south side of the river. That other crane was then able to hook onto it and take the load and lift it the rest of the way across. So they kind of had to do a mid-river, mid-air span pass off between one crane and the other. This project has been one of the more unique projects I've ever been involved with. It's been fun to work on. We've been doing things that you don't do as civil engineers most of the time.
Oh, it was a cool project. I don't know what else to say other than it was just unique.
This project is something that may never ever happen again for me in my career.
We are excited that the Bridgeland Bridge has a new home where it can be seen and used by the whole county, and we're just glad that we could be part of it.